Check that out. Ain't spring the greatest? Wow. Here I am. Found a nice little spot once again, down close to the river, to say a few words again today. Yeah, so today I wanted to ask the question, what can we learn from Stefan Molyneux, Donald Trump, and the village idiot? The village idiot part, I mostly added it in because I was thinking, what can give a little bit of a jingle to that title? But it's not only that, I think there is a lesson that we can learn from the village idiot. I want to go through all three of them, and just point out how I think we can learn something from most people, but particularly these types of people, in terms of empowering ourselves. As an example, it's not like we want to become other people, but certainly we can learn from other people, just like we talked about the personal God, right? We can hold aloft a personal God in our life as someone who is infinitely virtuous and admirable, honorable, worshipful, you would say. I'm not putting these people on that plateau, but nevertheless, we can learn from pretty much everything we come across, in particular certain things, and these three I'm going to make some points of. So first of all, Stefan Molyneux. I've been watching this guy for quite a number of years. Quite admire his explication, I would say, of morality. I talked about it a few days ago with UPB, and that's sort of the essence of it. But the thing I like about his explanation of morality is that it's quite simple to understand. It's not put together by some sort of a German philosopher that ducks and weaves, and it's like a mind warp trying to understand it. It's quite simple. And the reason I say morality is so important, not only is his presentation of it simple, but that morality is important, is because it's like a system that we can sort of offload some of our decision making to, right? Because we can say, in other words, our decisions, we can always overlay them on top of our morality. And if what we're going to be doing is not moral, then we can pause. We can take that pause, right? And also we can calibrate our actions alongside the morality in situations where does the morality apply. So, for example, if we have just an outside example, but let's say we have as a morality that we will not consume the proceeds of crime. We will not, eat what was stolen. We won't take, goods that we know are stolen, food that we know is stolen, and eat it. But, okay, so what happens if we're captured somewhere, or we're put in prison or something like that, and we know that the food that we're eating is stolen by our captors? Well, what choice do we have, right? So it comes down to certain situations where we realize, do we have a choice or do we not? And if we don't have a choice, we're basically in a state of nature, aren't we? We're like, well, we either we die or we eat it, So that's also a way that morality can help us think, because we're aware of it. Once we're aware of the situation, we can then calibrate it based on the situation. So that's one thing I think I've learned a lot from Stefan Molyneux. At least he's helped me to clarify it. It's not like it's new, but it's helped to clarify it, right? Donald Trump, next guy. I would say the number one thing that I've learned from him is his unapologeticness. And it used to really annoy me. I've known about Donald Trump for quite a while, admired him to some degree, but always thought this guy would just be incredibly annoying to be around, because he seems to come across as braggadocio, and he's a New York, he's a Manhattan billionaire basically, and people from Manhattan in general, people I have met from that part of the world, they tend to be a bit like that to begin with. And so that's not really surprising, but add the billionaires to it and you got that, right? But there's something to be said for being unapologetic, because a lot of times we're taught to say we're sorry when we're not really sorry, or there's no need to be sorry. Now, there is a time to be sorry, for sure. Like if we've harmed somebody, we not only need to apologize, I would say that but we need to try to make amends in some way. Otherwise, the apology is just empty. But this constantly sorry, 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 and people from so-called Canada, I notice they do that on a routine basis, and I, get caught up in that, and I have, and still do many times, catch myself saying sorry for what? It's like belittling in a way. There's no reason to be sorry, so why am I sorry? And why apologize? If what I've done is based on I've done my best, it's morally sound and so on, just because somebody doesn't like it, that's not a reason to be sorry. That's sort of cucking out, right? In other words, right? Okay, now so we come around to the village idiot. Okay. Like I say, the main reason I put that in there is because it had a bit of a jingle, Stefan Molyneux, Donald Trump, and the village idiot. So, but the village idiot as a construct, right? I don't mean any random village idiot, but the village idiot as a construct is somebody who's an adult physically, but is a child mentally in a way, right? Or spiritually, or what have you. And that, I think what we can learn from that is the childishness or the childlikeness of that individual. And if we all remember back to when we were kids, and I can remember fairly young, there is this a lot of the things that get heaped upon us, that get layered upon us, this guilt, this saying I'm sorry, this propaganda, and this I'm not good enough kind of thing, is really absent from the child. I remember how I was before I started going to school, until I went to school and was basically terrorized, and I changed, and a lot of that personality began to get that false self, right? And that I'm sorry is sort of like I'm sort of I'm reflecting upon myself. I'm self-critical, but I'm self-critical of a false self, in other words. Whereas the child is a true self, and that child is. I wrote a couple things that children are. What are they here now? Just a second, if I can remember them. Let's see, next page. Sometimes I make a few notes here. The child is curious, right? And we can all gain from being curious, I think, genuinely curious. The child is not propagandized, is easily swayed internally to positive thinking. Like a child is, you give them a little bit of hope and they're just like overjoyed, Of course, it's unregulated at that time, but if you combine all of those together, combine different elements, like we can learn a lot from somebody in life, but we might not, I knew one guy one time, he was really good at investing, but he had a terrible way of keeping his female relationships together, like he constantly getting divorced and stuff. So you could emulate him on that area, but not on his marital relationship side of his life. You know what I mean? Like, so there's things we can learn from each person and emulate that sort of stuff. So if we were to become as moral as we could and learn how to navigate the morality in terms of the situations and using it as like a system that regulates us, and we become more bold enough and confident enough to not have to be apologetic for things we don't need to be. There's no reason to be, but genuinely for those times that we have screwed up or whatever. And we're more childlike in general. We have that energy, that enthusiasm, that curiosity, that aversion to, that propensity towards positivity. Think about all that. Wouldn't that be wonderful, right? So we can help ourselves to work towards those things. And of course, how is that going to affect our actions within the Inner Genie project, right? It's going to empower us for sure. So that's about it for now. Thank you for listening. And if you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share, and comment in the box wherever you find this. And we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.